I'm Dan Montgomery, President of the Illinois Federation of Teachers. Thank you again for allowing me the opportunity to comment on the remaining portions here. Unfortunately, unlike my comments yesterday, my remarks today will not sound as agreeable. Let me be clear. We do not view the proposals before you as a serious effort to improve collective bargaining outcomes or improve educational outcomes for students. Instead, they can only be taken as a direct assault on the collective bargaining process itself. The proposals are a solution in search of a problem. Our collective bargaining law works well in Illinois and drastically reduced the number of strikes after it was passed and took effect in 1984. The law itself was the product of months of collaboration between school management, labor, and legislative leaders. It's been consistently touted as one of the best laws in the nation in terms of governing labor relations among employers and teachers unions. Just a little bit about the process. I think some people may misunderstand the actual process. As was mentioned a minute ago, any union that's in negotiations with its employer in the school board goes through months and months and months of negotiations. This is not a willy-nilly thing. A strike doesn't happen overnight. We have units that are in negotiations still right now after 19 months. I would hazard that probably the average length of time for the negotiation period is 7 to 10 months before any work action would ever be able to arise. Then there's the other process of once you reach that impasse, you must enter mediation. And in fact, we do have mediation now. Often with the Federal Mediation Service, that has to be engaged in. I've been through it. And then I would put it to you that there is a fact-finding process in place. Anytime I've ever been in those negotiations, both sides have their facts out there in the public, in the newspapers, through town hall meetings and things like that. I mean, that's already naturally part of the process. And then even after that, there's a 10-day period of waiting. So this sort of negotiations that could ever lead to any kind of work action goes through a long period of time. Let's look at the issue of strikes more closely in terms of numbers. There's 869 school districts in Illinois. Last year there were two strikes that consumed a total days, combined total of 5 days. For the past 9 years, the number of strikes averaged 4.6. In the 9 years prior to the passage of this bargaining law, there were 224 strikes, which is an average of 24.4 a year. In Chicago, there's not been a work stoppage since 1987. In other words, the process works. I believe these proposals are not so much about teacher strikes explicitly as they are about simply destroying any semblance of collective bargaining. By giving school employers the final and unilateral authority to write the terms of the agreement, there is in effect no bargaining. We cannot and will not accept such extreme attacks on the rights of teachers and other school employees to participate in a democratic and fair process that we believe has worked for all parties, including students. And my personal experience on that, just a couple of examples. The last negotiations I was in as a local union leader that were difficult in 2004 in Niles, we did not strike, but we got very close to it. And the issue that we were remaining on, and the biggest issue throughout that entire negotiations, was not any sort of benefit for the teachers. It was the school day. It was competing visions about what was going to offer the most choices for students, how to best prepare them to get into college, how big an arts program, and what sort of vocational and technical education needed to be offered. That was the issue. It was about kids. And I think both sides were better off for the result there. Most recently, I've negotiated in my district peer assistance and review and a completely revamped teacher evaluation system that uses student data. That was brought forth by the union. We would not have, and it's good for kids, and that would not have happened, I believe, without the collective bargaining rights we have under the current law. So it's my pleasure to introduce the General Counsel of the Illinois Federation of Teachers, Gilbert Cornfield. He's practiced law in the area of labor relations since the 1960s and is considered one of the most prominent public sector labor relations lawyers, and he was one of the principal authors of the 1983 collective bargaining legislation. I think you have a more complete version of his testimony in writing.